Hey everyone, Sam Evans here, and in this video we're going to talk about taking a view on the market. Now this is something totally unique, which you definitely wouldn't have taken training that's told you to do this before, but it's really important because, as the people who are successful, they don't mimic everybody else. They don't just copy everybody else, because if you copy other people, you're not going to end up like making much money at all. Like, it's the people who create things and the people who bring innovation that really get everything. And the people who mimic everyone else quite often get nothing. And when you do copy everyone else, it's very hard to it's very hard to get customers. Your message is weak. It's really important to learn how to take a view on the market and form your own unique decisions. Like, instead of just following what everyone else says, you want to be able to look at the market and make your own decisions. Because the people who make millions and the people who make billions, they don't do what everyone else does. They do what they think is right after doing their analysis. And often they're able to see a version of the truth which no one else sees, but is actually more true than what everyone else believes is true. Now, I know that's kind of hard to get your head around, but in this training, in this module right here, I'm going to teach you how to do this. I'm going to teach you how to take a view on the market. And this is going to be a profound thing for you to learn, because most people can't do this. And this is really going to be teaching you how to think like a billionaire, regardless of what stage you're at. And it's going to totally teach you to see the world in a new way. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about what taking a view on the market actually means and why it's important. Then we're going to talk about the madness of crowds and the fallibility of participants within them. And that might sound kind of weird, but just bear with me. We're going to talk about why crowds are crazy and why, there's something like when people are in crowds, they don't behave properly. Like, when people are in crowds, they can do weird things. And, when people are on their own, they're much more likely to make an accurate decision. And so when people are in crowds, things get distorted. And I'm going to show you how you can, really start to see this for yourself. And then we're going to learn to take an objective view on things as an observer instead of a fallible participant. So your whole life, you've probably taken a view on things based on how everyone else takes a view on things. And that can be okay to lead you through life, but there comes a time when if you want to do something, which is different than what everyone else is doing, you need to learn how to form your own views. Because if you did what everyone else thinks you should do, then you're going to end up like everyone else. And most people end up with a job in which they don't like, and then they end up not having any money left and worried about retirement and kind of sad that they didn't do anything spectacular. That's how most people end up. And so if you listen to most people's advice and you do what most people do and you believe what most other people believe, then that's how things will end. So it's very important that you learn to step outside of the crowd view and outside of, the view within yourself and really see things for as they are. And then we're going to talk about searching for market distortion, where perceived truth differentiates from objective truth. So I'm going to teach you how there's really two truths. There's what people believe is true and what is actually true. And, these things actually differ quite a lot. You can look through history and you can see that doctors used to recommend smoking. They were like, I recommend this pack of cigarettes. Like, if you just listen to what everyone else thought, then, everyone thought smoking wasn't bad for you. There is countless times throughout history where people believe something to be true and it's not. And this happens again and again and again and again and again. It never ends. It doesn't matter whether we're in 2017, it doesn't matter we're in 2040. People are going to end up with some distorted versions of the truth. And I'm going to show you how to look at the market and see, like when we pick a niche, I'm going to teach you how to look at that niche and see if they're being distorted, or whether everyone in that niche is believing a lie, or whether they're actually pretty close to what's true. And I'm going to show you how to spot that. And this is a very, very unique skill to learn as a businessman. Most people don't know how to do this. Even millionaires, most millionaires don't know how to do this. So I'm going to teach you a way of doing business which is quite profound. It's better than most millionaires do business when you can see things like this. And then I'm going to teach you how to see yourself as a protagonist, a change agent, or a catalyst required to bring the market back to truth. Because you don't always have to go and teach everyone how to do what everyone thinks they should do. Because quite often what everyone thinks they should do is wrong, and what they actually need to do is something else. And so instead of just being someone that comes along and joins the party and adds fuel to the fire of the trend, sometimes you need to be the person that comes in and is like, hey, look, everyone's kind of a bit crazy in here, and we need to start doing something else. So I know this sounds quite different, and just because it is. This is totally, totally different stuff. And it's going to really teach you how to think differently. Because in this world, most people just copy each other. And what happens is when everyone does that at an ever-accelerating rate, things get distorted. And that's what's happened. In most industries, there's too many businesses. And most people's business message is just exactly the same as the guy next door. Most people can't get clients. Most people have things set up wrong. And this is how I'm going to teach you to differentiate yourself from everyone else. So, what taking a view on the market means and why it's important. So here's a quote from me about what taking a view on the market means. Taking a view on the market is when you learn to step outside of the pinball machine you call life and view things as an observer rather than a participant. The observer takes an unemotional, objective view on things and asks what caused that, or why are things trending that way? The observer questions everything, especially authority and the status quo, as he knows that they are the largest distorters of the truth. The observer asks the question, is everybody believing a lie? The participant takes an emotional, subjective view on things depending on their self-image and the social circles that they're in, and has a tendency to believe lies to support their beliefs and fit in with social circles. The participant doesn't question anything and always believes their views and beliefs as the ultimate truth. Now you can write this down, or you can take a screenshot. This is something you want to remember, this quote by me on the difference between, the objective, the observer and the participant. Because I'm sure you've realized this before. When you're in a situation and it's dramatic, it's very hard to make the right decision. Quite often we make the wrong decision. Most people, most of the time, make the wrong decision when they're in the heat of the moment and they're within themselves. They can't be objective on things. But when you're looking from the sidelines, it's quite easy. You're like, okay, dude, no, you're getting all emotional. This is what you need to do. We have a totally different perspective when we're not within ourselves. However, what happens when we're within ourselves, we get distorted. And when we're within ourselves, within a crowd of people, my word, are we distorted. When we're within a crowd, we kind of tend to do what everyone else is doing, and then we're within ourselves. And, we have a very distorted view of things, and we can get carried away and we can believe things that aren't true. And so, it's very important to understand the difference between an observer and a participant. And when you take a view on the market, it's when you step outside of yourself, and when you step outside of the crowd and the madness of it all, and you learn to take a very, very, very clear, unemotional view. You're looking for what the truth is and what the right thing to do is, without getting carried away by social circles, your self-image, what your family believes, what society believes, all of these other things. You're just looking for the truth. And you have to learn to look outside your window and observe the world, thinking, what lie are these people believing? And what trends are prevailing? And you can, there's this, I provided this to you, this one screen here, as a printout. So you can print it out. It's attached down in the resources section below this video. You really have to learn to do this. Because what happens with most people is most people just get caught up in the busyness and the chaos of day-to-day life. They're rushing around, and they never have the time to really sit back and think, like, what's going on? And they never really look outside their window and observe people and think, is everyone out there nuts? Is everyone out there believing something to be true that isn't true? And I know this might sound kind of weird to you guys. You're like, well, who are we to think that everyone else might be thinking, or might be believing a lie? I mean, who are we to think that? Well, seriously, it can take strange people to actually uncover things. Like, when doctors were recommending smoking, I mean, who was anyone to question a doctor? Like, doctors are supposed to know everything. So who would someone to be, maybe that doctor's wrong, saying that everyone should be smoking? I mean, who was I to question consulting? I mean, I'm some kid from New Zealand, some young dude, but who was I to think that consulting was done wrong? And who was I to come in here and change everything around to be more accurate and more close to the truth? But, I used to think that too, but when I looked out my window and when I looked at consultants, I was like, surely this isn't right. Surely we don't have to sell time for hours. Surely we don't have to deliver advice in person. Surely the most important thing is the result, isn't it? It's not us being there in person. I'm pretty sure people don't pay me just to look at me and listen to me speak. I'm pretty sure people pay me for the results. So sometimes you really need to understand this. Like, you need to learn to look out of your window, and you need to observe the world and think. Like, it doesn't matter if at the beginning it kind of feels weird, but you need to start thinking this way. You need to think differently. You need to think, what lie are these people believing and what trends are prevailing? And in this training, I'm really going to teach you how to do that. So let's start off by looking at the participant's view of reality. So this is when you're within yourself and you're in a situation. So let's say, let me give you a very basic understanding, a very basic example. So let's say that, you and your sister are in a heated argument over something, right? Now, how are you going to choose how to act here? Well, you're in a heated argument with your sister. Your choices of actions, they're going to be not the best. And that's when you're a participant. You're involved in it. Let's say your brother, who's standing at the door, he is going to be an observer. And he's going to have a more objective view than what you do. So at that moment in time, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, the observer is going to have a more accurate view than the participant. So let's first of all look at the participant's view of reality. And it kind of looks like this. It goes up and down. It's like a roller coaster ride. And don't worry, this is not complicated, so don't let this chart freak you out. So this is what a participant thinks. If I believe it's the truth, it's the truth. Quote from the participant. Because that's what they do. If they believe something is true, then it is true. And they end up being like, man, this is one crazy ride. Because they keep finding out that, that thing which they thought it wasn't actually right. They might hear from someone like, oh, did you hear that did you hear that your sister said this about you? And all of a sudden, the person gets all angry and goes over and retaliates to their sister, and then they find out that the sister didn't do that at all. Well, that's because that person, the participant, believed something to be true that wasn't true. And what happens is, their version of the truth goes up and down like this. They find out something to be true, overreact, and then they find out that they're actually wrong, and it's up and down. And it's, it really is like a crazy ride. People are like, man, this is one crazy ride. That's a participant. Now let's look at the observer's view of reality. And so the observer's view of reality sees two things. They see the subjective truth, and then they see the objective truth. And then they see thinking, interacting participants. So let me walk you through this. Don't worry, it's not confusing at all, even though this chart might look kind of confusing. So up the top, it says multiple subjective realities. So this is what, this is a group of people, a crowd. And then they've got what they believe the truth is. And then that truth is moving up and down. So they might be, they might be pushing away from it, or they might be pushing towards it. And then down the bottom, you've got objective reality, and that's what the reality truly is. But quite often, and in fact most of the time, groups of people are wrong. The groups of people are most of the time, what they believe to be true is not true at all. And the more people that are in a group, the more, the less accurate their version of the truth really is. And these two things are always moving. They're going towards the truth, or they're going away from the truth. And it's kind of like up and down, like a roller coaster. And then we have a point where two of them cross, and that's called the temporary equilibrium. And this is where the subjective truth meets the objective truth. And this is a rare moment in time where what people believe the truth is, that actually is the truth. And these are very rare moments in time. As you can see, these crossovers only happen every now and then. Now, a good example to teach you about this would be like the stock market. It's always going up or down. We're either going into a bubble, or we're recovering out of a bubble. It's going up and down, up and down, up and down. Now, that would only happen if what we believed the truth was different than what the truth was. And every now and then we end up kind of coming back to an equilibrium. Well, that's what it is. And, that's how people's lives are too. They're up and down, up and down. They kind of believe something, then they're doing it, and then they figure out it's different. And it looks like this. Now, I'll give you some examples in a second. So the observer thinks participants are trending away from the truth, believing a lie or a set of lies. So if they see things going away from the truth, then they're like, oh wow, participants are believing something that's a lie. Or they see participants trending towards the truth by dispelling myths and lies. And so an observer thinks that something is either going away from the truth or coming towards the truth. And they don't know precisely what the truth is, but they've always got a good feeling for what the truth is. Now let me show you. Now here's where participants' perceived truth matches the objective truth, and this is very rare. This is an equilibrium point. So the participant is on a roller coaster ride they believe is out of their control. Man, this is one crazy ride. This is literally what the participant sees, because they don't understand that they could be wrong. A participant never actually asks that question, and they're not open to it. Or when they are open to it, they're biased. When someone has made up their mind on something, they're pretty biased. I mean, you try and tell someone that they're wrong when they've made up a very clear decision on something. It's near impossible. And quite often that person actually ends up finding out that they're wrong. I'm sure you can think of a million different examples like this. Like someone was fixed in their view of something and they wouldn't budge regardless of what you showed them, and every time you tried to tell them that they were wrong, they pretty much bit your head off. And then eventually that person ended up finding out that they were wrong, right? This is what happens. This is when you're a participant, what you think is the truth, you think is the truth, and you're not open to any other interpretation. Closed-minded. And that person ends up going on a crazy ride like this. The observer steps outside of the market and himself or herself to get an objective view. So the participant is stuck inside themselves and they're stuck within a crowd. Like they're inside themselves and they've got their own beliefs about what's true and what's not. And then they're within their families and their families have got their own beliefs. Then they're within their friends groups and their social circles, and then they're within their society and their, everything. And all of those things have an effect. And, when you have all of those forces pushing on you, it's very hard to make an accurate observation about what the truth actually is, because you have a tendency to want to fit in and all of that stuff. However, that makes you bias. To have a true objective view of things, you have to step outside of yourself and you have to step outside of all social circles, all of everything, and you have to just look and be like, I'm not going to hold any bias, I don't care what this is, I just want to know the truth here. And you look at it like that. So the observer steps outside of the market and himself to get an objective view. And the observer is always looking at things like this. What is objective reality and what is the subjective realities? And they're always looking at the crowd. Like, is this niche believing the right things or believing the wrong things? Is this niche distorting away from the truth, or is this niche coming back towards the truth? They see two realities instead of one. And the observer knows that opportunity lies in places where markets are distorted from the truth. And the smartest, richest people in the world make their fortunes by restoring truth to distorted markets. Why are all participants so fallible and distorted from the truth compared to observers? Well, it's something I refer to as the madness of crowds. And madness is the exception in individuals, but it is the rule in groups. And there has been tons of scientific and psychological studies into people in groups, and they are totally mad. When someone is within a group, they get carried away. They can end up going down a path which is totally distorted. And it's because, it's because we want to fit in, it's because we might now see things this way, and, what psychologists and stuff have done, and scientists have done, is like when people are in groups, they are way, way, way more distorted. And it's like if you're walking down the street and you see just a whole bunch of people start running the other way, I mean, your chances of running the other way all of a sudden are pretty high. If you're walking down the street and you see a group of people do anything, like there's a high chance that you're just going to follow suit and you're just going to do what they're doing, but you don't actually know if they're doing that for any reason or not. So it's really important to remember, just because a group of people is doing something or a mass of people is doing something, it doesn't mean that they're right, and it actually means that they've got a higher chance of being wrong. So here's how the madness of crowds happens. So people believe the way it's being done and has been done before is the way to do something now. And I'm not kidding, this is how people work. So people believe that the way it's being done and has been done before is the way to do something now. So a lot of businesses, you ask them, well, why are you still doing that? And they're like, well, that's the way it's always been done. I remember going to see a lot of businesses and they were like, our Yellow Pages ads aren't working anymore. And I was like, well, why are you doing them? I was like, do you look at the Yellow Pages for anything? When was the last time you needed something and went into your kitchen, dug out the Yellow Pages, flicked through it, found someone and gave them a call. And he was like, oh, I don't even have the Yellow Pages. Well, I use Google. And I was like, yeah, well, no kidding. Like, so this is what everyone's doing now. So why are you still advertising in Yellow Pages? And the guy was like, well, that's the way we've always done it. And so here, the madness of crowds. The way it's being done before is the way it should be done now. That's not the way it should. That's not a good idea. And another one, people believe that if everybody believes something or is doing something, then it must be right. That's kind of normal person mentality. Oh, everyone's doing it, so I should do it. It's like, when I was growing up, everyone got a job and everyone went to uni, so I was like, well, maybe that's what I should do then. I should go to job and I should go to university. And then I ended up going to university, spending like 50 grand or something, going through multiple years of stuff, which is useless, never going to use it ever, had to unlearn it all, and then going and getting a job which I didn't like, and then realizing, damn, why did I listen to everyone? And then I actually went against what everyone said, which was, as soon as I dropped out of uni, everyone was all up in arms. They were like, oh my God, Sam, what are you doing? Like, you need to have a good degree. You need to have a fallback plan. You need to have like a degree. No one trusts anyone with a degree. Now all of a sudden, as soon as I do that, I have everyone on me. I've got my girlfriend at the time's parents. They're like, well, everyone in our family history has always had a degree. And it's kind of, what are we going to tell people at dinner if Sam doesn't have a degree? And then my mum and dad were worrying. Everyone was worrying. It was like my friends, they were like, Sam, you've got to have a degree. And so now all of a sudden, I'm going against what everyone says. I followed what everyone said and I fit in. And I didn't like it and I didn't end up being very successful at all. Then all of a sudden, I go against it. And I do my own research for the first time. I'm like, well, maybe everyone's wrong. Maybe starting a business is a better idea. And I believed in myself. I did my research. I mean, I did a lot of research before I had the courage to go and quit my job and quit university. But I was pretty sure that what I found in my research was true. And I believed that, it was hard to believe, but I thought that, I thought that most people were actually wrong. And I thought that I had done objective research and found out what the truth was. And I had enough courage in myself and my research to go against all of those social pressures that were on me. My girlfriend's opinion, my friend's opinion, my family's opinion, society's opinion, everybody's opinion. And it's pretty hard to go against that stuff sometimes, especially when you don't have any record of achieving anything. But I, went with it, and it ended up being totally right. And I ended up making a fortune, having the best time of my life, everything. So, people believe that if everybody believes something or is doing it, then it must be right. But it's not. And then the third one, people believe in alignment with their families, friends, social circles, and society itself. So if they're saying something on the news, then it must be true. Or if it said it in the newspaper, then it must be true. Well, everyone on the news says that starting a business is really risky and that it's pretty much impossible and it's a miracle if you win, if you have a successful business. And I'm like, this is not a miracle. Like, we have too many thousands of people getting customers and starting their own businesses for this to be any form of a miracle. And I found that it wasn't luck of any sort. It was just cause and effect and sticking to something and having a plan. And people want to fit in with social circles and adjust their beliefs to fit in with the group. When you do something different to the group is kind of like, well, are you sure you should do that? And people don't want to cause conflict with their social groups or be disowned by them, so they never question anything, and they join the pack in attacking anybody who ever tries to question the collective beliefs of the group. So in my friends group, with my family, when I first told them that I was going to start a business, they were like, well, Sam, are you sure? Like, You sure you're not getting your hopes up too much? What about if it fails? Oh, isn't it something like 9 out of 10 businesses fail? Like, are you sure you should do that, Sam? We don't want you getting your hopes up. We don't want you getting your feelings hurt. And then once one person said that in my family, like my mum, I don't know who it was, I can't remember, but someone said that. And then, then everyone jumped in because that was their belief. So everyone wanted to jump on and join in with that because that was their belief and they wanted to really push it in. So then my sisters were like, oh, Sam, are you sure this is a good idea? You were doing well at university. Or what about your job? What about if you can't go back and get another one? I was like, man, I just had a whole pack on me. And this is what happens. When you do, this is the madness of crowds. People have what's called like a collective group thinking. And most people don't actually do their own thinking or their own analysis. Most people just join in and think what everyone else thinks. And that is not a good recipe for anything. And as an entrepreneur, as someone who's going to go out and start their own consulting business, and someone who's going to go out and make awesome amounts of money, you need to learn how to take an objective view on things. Because a lot of the time, you're going to think one thing, and you're going to have a lot of pressure against you from other people to say that you're wrong. When I decided to start my business, I had everyone on me saying that was a dumb idea. Everyone. Every single person I knew, friends, family, everything. And then when my first business failed, that reassured them. And you have this pressure on you. And then all of a sudden, just boom, it just explodes. And they're always like, oh yeah, I knew you would always do it. Oh, I knew you were going to do it. I was like, yeah, right. I don't blame them for anything. I still love them all. But I'm just saying, this is what happens. You have a ton of people who are going to question things and they're going to push against you. But you need to be able, as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to conduct an objective analysis of things, form your own viewpoints. And you'll notice throughout this training, I teach you how to form your own views. I don't even push my views onto you. I'm like, here's a way to look at things, and here's how to do your own analysis. Because you need to become an independent thinker, and you need to be in control of yourself if you want to do well in business. And I would be wrong to force my views and everything on you. I'm just teaching you how to think for yourself. So simply put, crowds are biased and delusional. That is a fact, and there is a ton of evidence to back that up. And if you want to be successful, make a ton of money, and live a beautiful life that you hold the steering wheel of, you must become an observer. You have to. Participants just get stood all over. Participants just get nothing. You have to learn to become an observer. So let's teach you how to take an objective view on things rather than a fallible participant's view. And let's use the bodybuilding market as an example because I find this one hilarious and fascinating at the same time. And so here's our objective view. We've got two truths. We've got the subjective and the objective. And the two are always going like this, crisscrossing, up and down, up and down. Now here's some beliefs and trends which used to be in the bodybuilding market. And I used to look at this because I had a couple of friends that were in this market. I had a couple of friends who all of a sudden decided that they wanted to go to the gym and get big. And I was fascinated at what happened. And so they had the belief, this is what the beliefs used to be a few years ago. Eat as much as possible. This was what everyone said in that niche. You were like, you need to eat. You just need to eat anything. Just eat like an animal. You need to have like 10 eggs for breakfast. You need to have a whole turkey for breakfast. And you just need to eat. And I had these friends who were just gagging every breakfast. They couldn't fit it in. Like these guys were choking all day just trying to eat as much as they possibly could. And then they said you need heavy supplement use. Like you need to just take supplements on supplements on supplements. I have my friends that are like shaking all sorts of drinks. They had like so many different supplements that they didn't even know what they were taking. And they spent thousands of dollars on these supplements. And then they said that you needed to lift really heavy weights in low reps. So like, the massive weight and a very low repetitions. And the belief was get as big as possible. Bigger, better. And so they would get so big that they looked ridiculous. They would get so big that they couldn't fit normal pants. And, they just looked like a square. And then the other belief was wear as little as possible. So, they wear like ridiculous clothes. And the belief was like become a monster. Like they wanted to look like the Hulk. And what's amazing is that a lot of the people who joined this niche is they joined it because they wanted to get more attention from girls. And then in the end, they ended up not getting any attention from girls and getting all this attention from other bodybuilding dudes. And I was like, man, what is going on in this niche? And what it is it's distortion. So at a particular point in time, let's say people who wanted to, let's say a particular point in time, people looked like this dude down the bottom. They were kind of scrawny, kind of, pretty skinny. They needed to be a bit bulkier than what they are there. And then the believed truths, which people were saying, were these: eat as much as possible, heavy supplement use, heavy weights, low reps, get as big as possible, wear as little as possible, become a monster. These were the beliefs. And this would have been good for a while as we went up on this curve here. But then as we keep going up on this curve and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going, eventually we get to a point where we get dudes that start to look like this up the top here. Pretty much like not a human. And then at that point, it's gone too far. We are now way too far that way. And then what happens is things tip and someone else will come in and they'll be like, wait a minute, guys, everyone's got things wrong. We've gotten a bit crazy here. And that's what's now happened in this niche. And you can look for yourself. This is actually going on right now. So this used to happen, and now there is new people who have come into the marketplace, and they've said, wait a minute, maybe we don't want to be that extreme. Maybe there's kind of a way which is about halfway. And so now these prevailing beliefs and trends is don't eat until 2 p.m. Now people are literally saying that, I think it's called, what is it called? The there's some sort of diet, and it's called ketogenic diet or something. And it's when you literally starve yourself until 2 p.m. So I'm not kidding. So these bodybuilders, they used to say that you should eat 6 eggs and a whole turkey and like all of this stuff for breakfast. And now the belief is don't eat anything, starve yourself till 2 p.m. And they used to say eat as much supplements as you can afford. And I had my friends spend like $3,000 a month on supplements. And now the prevailing trend is supplements don't work. Don't have any of them at all. Nothing. It's about good food. It's not about supplements. And it's about starving yourself and then eating in the afternoon. And now the workouts, instead of doing heavy weights and low reps, it's CrossFit style workouts, a bit more, because we ended up with dudes who couldn't move their arms very far. Like people were getting kind of stiff and rigid, and they were kind of bulky but kind of useless. They couldn't really do much. And so now we started getting some different types of workouts. And then people thought, well, we should get big, but not too big, because then it's kind of silly. So people started getting, a more normal sort of big. And then they were wearing normal clothes. And the belief, instead of become a monster, was let's become a normal person, but let's become fit and healthy. And this is what the prevailing trend and belief is now. And so what happened is everyone started going distorted on this one angle, and then some people looked at that as an observer and they were like, hey, wait a minute, maybe things have gotten a bit too crazy. Maybe we should we shouldn't do everything which everyone's saying. And this is what's happened. And now things are coming back the other way. And bodybuilding got distorted from the truth for a while. And now it's getting pulled back towards the truth a bit more. And, it's absolutely going to happen. It's not it's 100% fact that this trend will get to a point where it's gone too far, and it will have gone too far the other way. And people will be not eating enough at all, and they won't be, they'll be doing workouts which are way too all over the place. People will end up pretty much getting back to the stage where they're not even working out. And then someone's going to be like, wait a minute, we need to bring it back to the truth. And so this is how all markets evolve. We used to have doctors saying that you could smoke. You used to be able to smoke on airplanes. You used to be able to smoke in restaurants. They used to smoke all the time. It was what everyone was doing. And now everyone's like, you shouldn't do it at all. And this thing keeps happening. Like, as soon as crowds get onto things, they start going a bit out of control. And what observers do is they look at markets like this and they think, where is everyone right now? Like, where is everyone's beliefs right now? And are things going distorted from the truth, or are things kind of being corrected and pulled back towards the truth? That's what an observer does. They form an objective view. And this stuff might look complicated, but seriously, it's really simple stuff. And what is this group of people, and what do they believe to be true? That's really the question you need to ask. So first of all, you need a group of people. You need a niche. And a niche could be anything. It could be bodybuilders. It could be people who do yoga. It could be people who do meditation. It could be people who are vegetarians. It could be people who are vegans. It could be anything. You just need a group of people. And then you need to figure out, what did they believe to be true? What is their group belief system? Because in order to become part of a group, you quite often have to adopt their belief systems. And that's how groups form. Groups of people form because they believe the same thing, and that's how they get on. And that's all you need to do. You want to step outside of the group. And that's why consultants are quite powerful, because we have external views. When someone used to talk to me about their business problem, I was external. I wasn't involved in the day-to-day. I didn't have to worry about making payroll. I didn't have to worry about the fact that Susie was late to work today, and that Jane was angry, and that the coffee machine was broken, and that someone had parked in someone else's driveway. I don't have any of that. I'm just totally clear-headed from an external point of view, and I'm listening to someone's problem. And at first, I used to listen to their problems and think that what they said was what they actually meant. And then I didn't get very far when I listened to that. I used to ask people, well, what's the problem? And they'd tell me something. They'd say, like, I need to figure out how to do Facebook ads. And I'd be like, okay, well, let's figure out how to do Facebook ads. Then I'd teach them how to do that, or, we'd go and do that, and then it would end up not working. And then after a while, I was like, wait a minute. Like, mate, what if these people are wrong? What if what they think their problem isn't actually the problem at all? What if there's something underneath that? If someone's saying, I need to do Facebook ads, I mean, why? I learned to ask why. So I learned to ask, well, why do you need to do Facebook? Why do you think you need to do Facebook ads? And he was like, I need to get more leads. And I was like, well, why do you need more leads? He's like, because I need to get the sales guys, I need to get the sales guys on the phones more. And then I'm like, well, why do you need to get the sales guys on the phone more? And he was like, well, we need more sales this quarter. And I was like, well, why do you need more sales this quarter? And then, I'd end up uncovering something like, oh, well, I just started this new product line, and it's sucking all of this money off. And, if we don't start making more money soon, then we're going to be totally out of business. Like, I was like, oh, okay, whoa. That's why. So you don't actually need Facebook ads. This is the problem. You see, what someone says they need isn't quite often what they actually need. And you need to learn to understand this. Because when you're looking at a market, you need to learn to listen to what they say, but also ask why, and kind of look underneath everything to see if what they believe is true isn't, or it might be. We've got to look at that. You have to question things. People who are really good in business, they don't always just take what the word says and believe it to be that. And if you do that, you'll always get misled in business. So, what is this group of people and what do they believe to be true? Just a good exercise. So, let's try an exercise to get your brain ticking on this and cement this understanding. Now, with all this stuff, I'm trying to teach you how to think different. Because no one actually asks this stuff. Everyone is just like monkey see, monkey do. Everyone just copies everyone. And it just no one ends up with unique businesses. And no one ends up really making a difference. And no one ends up having much fun. No one ends up adding much value to the world. And no one ends up making profits that are that awesome. And I can tell you, out of all of the people who have got awesome profits in my programs, they have learned how to think different. They went and did something which is a bit different. They didn't just join the crowd. And so this is why I'm trying to get your brain ticking, and this is why I'm trying to get you to think like this. So, here's a quick exercise. What is this group of people, and what do they believe to be true? So what I want you to do is you can print off this page. There is a page, it's in the resources section that looks just like this. So you can download that PDF, print it out, and you want to go through this exercise. You want to start off by picking a niche or a market. And don't worry, this isn't your niche or your market. It can be if you want to, but you can just pick anything. All we're trying to do here is get you thinking. So pick a niche or a market. And now define the niche or market's characteristics. So, how do we kind of gather these people together in a group? Like, what is their characteristics? Are they people who do CrossFit? Are they mothers who do Pilates? Are they people who are into some sort of type of cooking? Are they accountants? Are they lawyers? Like, what is the niche? What is the market? And then how do we categorize them? What are their characteristics? And do they typically tend to be in between a particular age group, particularly men or women, particularly in this one type of area or location? I mean, get a little bit of information about them. And now, what do they currently believe to be true? We want to come up with some things which they believe to be true. So, like if we were doing the bodybuilding market a while ago, and still today, most people probably think this in the bodybuilding market, is that the more you eat, the better. Like, that's what you do. You just eat like an animal. And that was the belief. And there's a range of different beliefs. And in the marketing market right now, in the internet marketing and all of that craziness, and whatever we call that market, info marketing, internet marketing, people believe that the lower the cost per click, the better. That's a belief. The belief is that the lower the cost per leads, the better. The higher the opt-in rate, the better. And they believe that the number one metric of all is lifetime value. What a whopping set of beliefs that is. We are going to learn when we get into the marketing stuff that all of those are wrong. Every single one. Every single one of those metrics is wrong. Every single one of those beliefs is wrong. And it's just because everyone's followed everyone in a mad crowd like fashion, and that's what everyone's saying at all the seminars, that's what everyone's saying in all of the trainings, that now everyone now believes that to be the truth. And I've gone and tested with millions of dollars in ad spend, and I know that those things are wrong. So, this is quite crazy. Like, I've found this out with a lot of things. With sales, the way everyone used to think sales was done, or the way still most people think sales is done, is by talking a lot, being really controlling, talking over the top of people, and being the person who talks the most and just yaps on like a crazed person. And that's not the right way to do it. It turns out the opposite way is true. It actually turns out to be speak less. And you see, I've gone in and questioned everything, and I've found out that a lot of these people are wrong. Like, I figured out that a lot of the sales trainers were wrong. I figured out that pretty much every single internet marketer was wrong. And I figured out the people who taught ads were wrong, and all sorts of different things. When I started questioning things, I could not believe it. And that's how I started to get really good, is because I no longer just followed what the crowd said. I figured things out properly and formed my own views. And I'm going to teach you all of those things. We're going to teach you how to do sales the proper way. We're teaching you right now how to build a consulting business the right way. We're going to teach you how to do marketing and advertising and Facebook ads and all of those things the right way. So this is going to be a revolutionary training, because the things we're going to uncover in here are really the objective truth. And pretty much everything that's being taught out there has gotten distorted. So it's going to be quite a ride. So you want to do this exercise. What do they currently believe to be true? I've given you lots of examples just then. And then what do they currently believe to be false? What are things which they think are false? What are their deepest fears and desires? What are they really afraid of? And then what do they really want? And then, is the market distorting away from objective truth or towards objective truth? You want to plot your market on this chart. So you want to look at all these different beliefs, and you want to plot your market on this chart. You want to print this out. There's a printout in the resources section below this video. You want to print this out, and then you want to write down belief 1, belief 2, belief 3, belief 4, belief 5, belief 6. Like, what are the prevailing trends and beliefs? Where are things heading? And now you want to sort of point, like, where the truth is. Like, where is the truth, and where are people distorting? Like, for this niche, whether it's bodybuilding, yoga, meditation, whatever. And you want to do this. And don't worry if this isn't your niche. You seriously just want to get your head thinking. So pause this video, complete those exercises right now. Don't be one of those people that doesn't do it, because remember what I told you about cause and effect. What this exercise now and getting your brain to think this way right now might be worth $1 billion for you in a few years' time. So don't skip it out. And congratulations, now you're thinking like a billionaire. Billionaires look at markets and they wonder if everybody is wrong. They don't just jump in and do what everyone else is doing. And if you want an example, if I was to look at the taxi market, like in New York, the yellow cab taxi market, I'm like, okay, well, everyone's got a taxi and they're driving around and they're doing jobs for people, like they're driving people around. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to join the taxi market, and my way of competing is I'm just going to have a more yellow car. So I paint the hubcaps yellow, I paint the windows yellow, I just go more yellow. I'm like, well, if yellow cars is what's working, I'm going to have a more yellow car. And so I have my more yellow car, and I go out to the market and I try to compete. Now, imagine what my chances are going to be like. Probably not that good. Probably get the same amount of business as everyone else, might get less. Now, that's the sort of thinking most people have. They go out into the market and they do more of what everyone else is doing. They literally have a more yellow car than the rest of the yellow cars. And it doesn't work. And then someone like Uber comes along and they're like, well, what if we did it this way? Isn't all people care about, like, getting from A to B? What if we used an app instead of people waving on the side of the road or making phone calls? And then, what if we didn't have to pay with a card or have cash? What if it just kind of auto-charged? It's different thinking. It's looking at everyone and thinking, well, maybe they're doing things a little bit, maybe they're wrong. Now let's talk about what this has to do with you and your role as a consultant. So what market views have to do with consulting? Well, when most people look at the market, they use a strategy called monkey see, monkey do. And this is monkey see, monkey do is what distorts markets from truth and causes bubbles and inevitable busts. And it looks like this. Monkey see thing, monkey do thing. Monkey teach others how to do thing. And never once did monkey question whether the thing that they saw was right. You know, if someone, it's like someone invented these things called the tripwire funnels, and, you know, it had a nice name, and then they talked about it, and everyone was like, well, a tripwire funnel. I know, this is awesome, so I'm going to do a tripwire funnel. They did a tripwire funnel, and then they taught everyone else how to do a tripwire funnel, and then before long, everyone was doing a tripwire funnel, and then everyone was like, hey, wait a minute, has anyone been able to get their tripwire funnel to work? And everyone was like, no, like, mine hasn't worked ever. And then everyone was like, oh shit, is anyone's tripwire funnel working? And then they're like, nope. And they're like, well, why are we all doing these tripwire funnels? And they're like, I don't know. And that's what happens. You know, just because something is, people are talking about it a lot, or a lot of people are teaching it, doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. And this is how things happen. Like, a lot of people started saying the right way to sell was to be real hyped up, real loud, talking over the top of the other person, and it just, you know, that's what everyone said. It's like, man, if you want to sell, you've got to be ruthless, you've got to be pumped up, you've got to be like a madman, you've got to be hungry. And I was like, man, all these salespeople are just like, it's like they're on steroids. Like, they just keep getting wilder and wilder and more aggressive and more aggressive. And I was like, when I tried to figure out how to do sales, it turns out that it's not about that at all. And so you see, people get distorted. People see things and then they copy people without ever doing their own analysis, and then they teach other people how to do it. And it ends up being wrong. And honestly, quite often, people go out and they learn something, and then they do it, and then they teach other people how to do it, and then they find out that the original person that they saw do it copied it from someone else, who copied it from someone else, who copied it from someone else, who made it up. And who just like totally made it up and didn't do any research. And that's what ends up happening with human beings. We end up copying each other, and then once so many people have copied it, we assume that must be the truth, when quite often it could have just started from someone just making some stuff up. And so this is how it happens. And so in any given market, over a period of time, the imitators make a grand total of $0. And I'm not joking, there's been proper studies done into this. In markets, over a long enough period of time, people who just imitate end up making zero. Sure, they might end up making some money short term, but over the long term, they always end up back at zero. All money and all income and rewards in markets go to people who innovate. And so remember this, business rewards value, and value comes from bringing market participants back to truth from whatever side of the bias they are distorted on. So whatever side of the bias people are on, maybe people are on the bottom side or on the top side, whatever they are on, people who make money bring people back towards the truth. If you do what everybody else is doing and how they're currently doing it, you're going to have a hard time getting any attention and getting any clients and making any money. Imitators get 0%, innovators get 100%. So when you go and you look at your niche, like let's say you choose dentists, when you look at what dentists are doing, you don't want to think, well, I'm going to teach them how to do more of that. Because you don't know if what dentists are doing is right or not. you've got to be willing to question things. You've got to be willing to look at a market and say, I wonder if things could be done a different way. I wonder if things could be done a bit better. Because I can tell you that groups of people get distorted, and quite often it takes outsiders like you and me to come in and restore things back to the truth. And I honestly turned the tides on consulting and psychology of the self. I completely turned the tides on consulting. I came into it and I thought things were mad. And so I turned things around and I'm bringing them closer towards the truth. Same with the psychology of the self. A lot of people think that someone is something and that they can't change, and that's who they are forever. We have got sayings in the Western world which is like, be true to who you are, stick to your roots, or be authentic. Like, we think that someone is something and they are fixed in that state. We do not believe that people can change. And, and with consulting, everyone thought things were, you were supposed to charge hourly, you were supposed to have a lot of certificates and a lot of degrees and everything, and they also thought you had to go out and write all these books and go and speak on stage and do all of these different things. And I didn't do any of it. And I totally flipped these things. And so I turned the tides on consulting and psychology of the self. And I'm about to start reforming our era in the largest shake-up since the Renaissance. It's a new day out there, and this training is going to put you at the forefront of it all as a consultant who restores truth. It's a new world of consulting. It's a new world of a lot of things out there right now. The whole world is shifting in terms of how things are done. We're moving from the Industrial Revolution, where things came from manufacturing things and selling things which we could touch. And now things are moving towards information optimization and things which are intangible. Most of the S&P 500 is intangible these days. Most assets are intangible. We are moving from a time when things were valuable if you could touch them and see them, to a time when things are valuable if you can't touch them and see them. And so things are changing big time. And the awesome thing is that this training is going to put you at the forefront of it all in this new revolution as a consultant who restores the truth. How do I make a lot of money in my market doing what I do? Well, I do it by bringing people closer to the truth. People don't need to go and drive 1,000 miles and fly around the world and go and speak one-on-one to people. People don't need to go and do 6 Harvard MBAs and put all these letters after their name to go and help someone solve their problem. And, there's so many things. People don't need to be all pumped up and on steroids and shouting at people to sell stuff. People don't need to write a book in order to help someone solve a problem. People don't need to go and speak on stage in order to help someone solve a problem. People don't need a YouTube channel and Instagram. People don't need any social media to help someone solve a problem. Solving a problem is solving a problem. And we've come to believe that you need all of this other crap to do it. When you don't, you just need to be able to do it. It's just like why Leonardo DiCaprio is like one of the best actors in the world, because all he is a good actor. He just focuses on being a good actor. And everyone else is out there trying to be good on Instagram and all of this other stuff, and everyone gets confused. It's a new day out there, and this training is going to put you at the forefront of it all as a consultant who restores the truth. So throughout this training, when you're researching niches and researching yourself and your own beliefs, understand that perception of the truth doesn't always mean the truth. Be open to taking a contrarian view on your market, and be open to questioning everything you ever knew. Because your current beliefs and your current way of doing things will only get you more of what you already have. And it takes change to get change. If you continue to believe what you believe and do what you do, then you're only going to get more of what you already have. It's very simple. And it takes change to get change. And so here's a printout from this one. Something to put on your wall, something to store somewhere so you can remember this, because It is important, and I have to remind myself this all the time because I keep getting sucked into group thinking. And this is something you want to print out. It's available in the resources section below. What do you believe to be true? Understand that perception of truth doesn't always mean the truth. Be open to taking a contrarian view on the market, and be open to questioning everything you ever thought you knew. Your current beliefs and your current way of doing things will only get you more of what you have now. If you want change, it takes change. And if you want to change the world, then you better start by changing yourself first. Because if you want to change a market, if you want to help a market, well, you've got to work on yourself first. And you want to ask yourself this every day. What is something you believe to be true that no one else agrees with you on? This is something which I ask a lot of the employees which we hire. You know, whenever I'm looking for someone who knows how to think like objectively, I will ask them a question. I'll be like, what is something you believe to be true that no one else agrees with you on? And you ask anyone this question, and they squirm. They can't come up with something. Man, it drives people nuts. They cannot come up with an answer to this question because they've never even tried to challenge group thinking. They've never tried to come up with a view on something which isn't the view of everyone else. And this is a really good exercise to start doing. And I don't even mind if you can't come up with anything right now. All I mind, this is just something which is going to start triggering your brain to think differently. You know, this is going to start triggering parts of your brain which have never been triggered before, ever. And when we start triggering these things, we're going to start turning you into a very, very, very powerful consultant and a very powerful entrepreneur. Because people make billions by answering the question at the bottom. What is something you believe to be true that no one else agrees with you on? It's people who understand that the majority is wrong, and sometimes it's not. I've got to be clear here. The majority isn't always wrong. Quite often, the majority is right. But sometimes the majority is wrong, and it's some outsider who comes in and restores things to the truth, and that's how massive fortunes are made. And it's really important for me to teach you this because when you're looking at your niche, when we teach you how to pick your niche and do your market research, you can't just listen to what the people are telling you. You know, if people are telling you, I need to do more ads or whatever, you need to start thinking, why? Like, what's underneath the surface here? You need to start thinking differently because I want to help you create a consulting business that's really going to fly. Like, I want to teach you, I don't want to just teach people how to create mediocre consulting businesses. I want to create a totally new species of consulting business which is going to be out there and actually make massive changes in the world and make massive improvements to things. Because I think the way things are being done is wrong. There's a lot of distortion out there in the market. And I want to create a new breed of consultants that is going to pull things back into line and back into the truth, because it's going to do everyone a lot of good when we can pull things back towards the truth. So it's your time. You're in this training for a reason. You didn't attend the webinar, join this program, and turn up today and watch this training for just some random reason. It's your time. And you need to start thinking differently. You need to look at your market and question things. And it's okay if your market isn't believing lies and is actually close to the truth. There's nothing wrong with that. But what you want to make sure is that you know. You don't want to be caught believing a lie because it always gets people into trouble. You want to always make sure that you know what you believe is true is at least close to true. And in the upcoming videos, we're going to be talking more about this. When we pick your niche, when we craft your offer and your message and all of these things, and especially when we get into the mindset training in week 2, where I teach you all about the new paradigm and the new worldview. It's really, really important that you have an open mind and you are willing to start looking at things differently, it's your time. Let's do this together. Let's create some awesome consulting businesses.